Hello, everyone. Today we are continuing the conversation on cults and everything cult life. My guest today, I am so excited as I have not seen her or talked to her in Jesus, like 20 years or so.
Yeah.
And she came from, her and her family came from the same place I did, Straightway, AKA under a bunch of other names now, or has been. But her and her family were there for quite some time. They got out, and so she is here to tell her story. And welcome. How's it going, Miss Chanel?
Yes, it is good. All is good. Oh my gosh, it's good to see you, Syria. You were just a child. It's been 20 years since I've been there.
Yeah.
I was there for 11 years, and you were just a little girl. I think you got there after I did, because I came in
We did.
1989. And
yeah, we came a little bit after that, and I just remember like playing with William, and like we had our little crew, me, Hannah, William, Cassie, and Raquel.
Yeah.
we were such little rugrats, like playing on the playground, and just like he was just the cutest thing ever. But yeah, so like those are the memories I have of y'all's family. But so do you want to just kind of share how you guys even got there, or like why did y'all end up coming?
Okay. So when we came, the children's father and I had 3 children together, and he had on and off, had some struggles with drug addiction. And we were going to church, and he, it just got to the point where I was just, after our 3rd child, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know, you need to get help, but I can't live with you anymore. So we separated, and he went to our pastor of our church, and just said he wanted help. He needed help. He had this drug addiction, and the pastor told him, okay, I know this place. At that time, it was Teen Challenge. It was a family teen challenge. And so the children's father came to me, and he said, I'm going to go to this place. I'm going to get help. I want to do whatever, it takes to get help. It's a 2-year program. And I was like, you know what, go, I'll be here. I'll wait, whatever it takes, you go. And we had at that time, a newborn infant. We had, the 3 babies. The oldest was at that time 4, and then 2, and then a newborn. And I was just like, you just go. So unbeknownst to me, it was a family place, and I got the call to, okay, you need to come too. And I was just like, actually, I was kind of horrified, because I was like, I didn't really want to go to a rehab and just stop my life for 2 years. But I thought, okay, I'm going to do this.
Sorry, quick question. Then was it 2 years or was it 1 year?
At that time, it was a 2-year program.
Okay, because
we were told. I understood it to be a 2-year program, or like 18 months or something, but it was like close enough to 2 years. And it was just like, okay, Lord, if this is you, and I'll do this, whatever it takes, we'll go, because we were believers. And we just thought, okay, it's God's will that families be restored and be healed. And this kind of a place was, what we were told and introduced to as a place that would bring healing to the family. And it was the only one like that. And I was like, okay, here we go. So that's when he had been there like 4 months when they called for me and the children. And so we loaded up and got rid of everything we owned in the world, and loaded up our little car, and I drove down there with the 3 babies. And so we entered into this program. And so they, we lived in some dorms, and they, okay, you're going through the program with him. You go to classes, you go to whatever their program is. And I was just like, okay, let's just do this. Let's get this over with. Let's, heal this family up and go on. And so, it was very, very heavily into, you had to go to a lot of studying, Bible studies, and church services that were just like 5 hours long or something. It just went on forever. And, it was difficult, especially with small children and babies, but we're like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to, get on track here and get our life back together so that we can go on and be a healthy family, and go on with life. And,
Yeah. Let me just explain. Yeah. I just want to explain real quick, like when married people and their families come in, I'm assuming that this is what happened with y'all. It's what happened with my parents. You're put into the ladies, with their kids dorm area, and you're separated from your husband. And then your husband is in the guys area. And so for like, if it's, I don't know, I don't remember, it was like maybe 8 months or a year or something. You're separated, but you're going, were you guys allowed to speak to each other during that time? Because girls and guys were not allowed to speak to each other. But if you were husband and wife, what was the case?
Only with a monitor. You had to have monitors. So you
that's
could have,
right.
you can have meals together, and you had like a big sister, big brother thing going on. So when you go into the program, it's like, okay, this is going to be your big sister. She's going to show you the rules. She'll be basically, with you at all times. If you have any questions, you can go to her. And it's somebody that was seasoned in the program. And I guess the same for the men. But no, we were kept separate. We could not speak to each other without a monitor. And again, when you go into this program, even though I had no kind of a drug addiction or any kind of life controlling problem that I thought of, you're going through just as they are. No phone, no communication with the outside. No, you cannot speak on the phone with your family. Anybody that is on the outside world, you're just cut off from. And I don't know, you had like a once a week or every 2 weeks, however long it was, you could get a phone call, but you had a monitor. Somebody was sitting right there with you on the phone to listen to your conversations and to their conversations. And
they weren't on the other end of the line, right? They were like standing right by you, listening to your side of the conversation, right?
But you were on like speakerphone or something. They could hear what was being said to you by your family. And so they heard the whole conversation both ways. It wasn't a only heard what I said, but they could hear both sides. So, everything was monitored. Everything was just out in the open. Yeah. There was no conversation with your spouse or with your family that they did not know. Even if you didn't feel like you need to be there, you were just there to restore your relationship with your spouse. And so we were months, I don't remember how many months apart we were, but I was in a single woman's dorm with just the single mothers, and oh gosh, so we did that for some season, and then finally at some point they decide, okay, it's time for y'all to get together, but still you're heavily monitored. Of course, you're living in a glass house, when everybody, you would write it if somebody thought you were doing something out of order, or one time, this is ridiculous. One time after my husband and I got together, and we had this little normal husband and wife spat, and he was just like irritating me, and I said, you know what, would you hush? I said the word hush. And I got written up for that.
Who wrote you up?
Well, I have an idea who it was, but
let me explain to everybody.
Facebook, so I can't say her name.
Let me explain to everybody what that is. So you would get these demerits. Yes. It was usually for people that were in the program part of it, but they also started doing it to some people that were out of the program part of it. And so you would get written up for just like little stuff like that, or you had a bad attitude, and then you had to go like, I don't remember. You had to like go do all these chores, or you had to do scripture or something.
Oh, yeah,
you had like these. You had these assignments, and so let me just remind everybody: all this is going on in the middle of nowhere, 45 minutes south of Houston. You are literally in the middle of nowhere, so you are brainwashed for 2 years, and your head is thinking. You get into this mentality of the way that everybody thinks. So you start to think it's normal and that things are good and like you're getting better. And obviously he's not doing drugs anymore, right? Like, I mean, at that point.
Right.
And so, you think things are good, which that's, okay. So did y'all move up into the area where, the upstairs little apartments, a little apartment areas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's where my parents went too. Yeah.
Yes, I actually, and I was there to start with, we lived there so when we were introduced back to each other, and the apartment was, oh my gosh, it was so tiny. It was very small. So we had 3 children, and actually I became pregnant with my 4th child while we were there, and birthed her. So we had 4 children in an apartment that was the size of it was 2 tiny little rooms, about it could not have been more than 15 by maybe 15. I mean, tiny little apartments with it had a little bathroom.
Yeah.
Little tiny room. We slept on this the hide-a-bed couch was our bed, and it was torture. That bar in the middle was just agony. But anyway, so we were there, and I do want to say this. I want to say this, that we did not know it was any kind of a cult. When you go to these places, you're just, we were just struggling with life, and it was like, hey, this place will help, if you want to get off drugs, whatever, or your life controlling problem, whatever it is. And we were so desperate to stay together, to get our lives right, that we just went with it, and at that time, I believe at that time it was, of course, it was under the Teen Challenge umbrella. And I don't know when, at some point after we got there, the head of this program decided that it would benefit everyone if he got out from Teen Challenge, because he felt like he was limited to, and I believe Teen Challenge was under the Assemblies of God.
It was under the Assemblies of God. And
he was, yes.
And what he told us was, from what I remember, is what he said is we were changing to Family Life Training Center or something, because we wanted to accept whole families here. Yes. And Teen Challenge didn't, or something. That's what we were told.
Teen Challenge, yeah. He said that the Assemblies of God, is what I understood, was it limited us, and it hindered and only limited to the Assemblies of God was just a small, and he wanted to broaden and open it up to all people, everybody. So that was his justification for stepping out from under the umbrella of the Assemblies of God and their accountability. There were many things involved. Their structure. And so his reason for stepping out from under that was, well, we want to open ourselves up to all people. And basically, he had, at that point, there was no more accountability. There was no more, to me, that was the downfall. That was where it began.
Yeah. Do you know the real reason of why he did that?
No.
I think I've heard it before, but pretty much kind of what you were saying is he didn't have to answer to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much at that point. And I think, when you get into a position of power like that, when you're ahead, like it just starts to go to your head. And maybe at one point it did start as a good thing. I don't know. I wasn't there at that time. And maybe they really did have a heart for helping people, but it soon became something else along the way.
Right. He answered to no one. And somehow that began the error, began, I believe, at that point. But, we were just, it was grilled into us, the covenant.
Oh, did you ever sign it? Did you sign the covenant?
I probably did, because, I'm trying to do the right thing and whatever. But it was just, it's all we heard for hours and hours and hours. And you are literally, and you don't realize it, but you're being brainwashed. When you go to service for 5 hours, the services were just insane. And it was always about covenant. And so we were instructed constantly about covenant and keeping covenant and being, in covenant with each other. And it was always this Old Testament, David and David from the Old Testament, a lot of preaching about that, a lot of, he was a covenant man, and he was devoted, and he was faithful, and this and that. And so it's all you hear it just goes on and on and on. And then,
on top of all the songs that went on forever and ever, and the song of the Lord, and you're like, So Song of the Lord, I may have explained this in the first one. I can't remember, but Song of the Lord is like, you would have a mic by like in the congregation, and they would go to like an instrumental, like the worship team would go into an instrumental section where people would come up and sing what was on their heart to God. So these services would go on for like 4 or 5 hours. And some of us, I remember being a kid and being like, I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
And so these would just go on. It's like so long. And I mean, there are parts in the Bible that talk about, you know, worship or whatever, but they took it to another level. And they took it to like such a level that like they would make you, I cannot sing. I have the worst voice in the world. They would make you get up and sing. And like, if you did not, it was like you had to write why I did not get up and sing about the Lord.
You were not entering in. You were not entering in.
You were not entering in. Do you remember the sign that was above the blue chapel?
Yes.
Don't enter in unless you're going to enter in.
It's like some of us, I'm sorry, but I can't carry tuna in a bucket. I'm sorry.
No, some people have lovely voices, and that was fine. But like,
and if you didn't,
it was like, and it was the same tune. They always did the same tune.
Yes. Oh my God, it was just, so, you know, and of course by the and another thing I want to point out is, you know, truthfully, I was miserable. I was miserable. It was just like, oh, this is torture, but it was the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
I knew that if leaving here is going to take me right back to where we were, and the you know, the addictions, the everything that came with it, you know, and I would just like constantly be like, oh my gosh, you know, oh gosh, the lesser of two evils. So I would struggle with this environment and these requirements and all the restrictions and guidelines, everything that, you know, you had to follow and all these rules. And but it was, to me, it was still not it was the lesser of two evils. And I was like, okay, well, you know, as miserable as I am here, it's not as bad as that was out there. So I'm just going to stick this out. I'm going to stick it out. And so as the 2-year came up to, okay, you know, y'all are graduating, and you know, I knew, to me, I felt like that my husband, you know, he was doing everything he could to save the marriage. I feel like I that time I felt like he'll go right back. He'll go right back. I just felt like he was doing what he had to do, and he put in this 2 years, and he did it, and he committed himself to it, and we got through it. And it was like, and I just knew in my heart, oh my gosh, there was no change. I just felt like he's going to go right back. So I was just like, oh, let's just, you know, let's just like stick around for a while. Let's just stay here because, you know, because it kept him clean. The accountability and the restrictions and the rules were, and the you know, the meetings, the weekly group meetings that you had, you know, you were just like, and in church, you were just constantly around people. So we're living there. And I thought, well, he's not going to get back on drugs if we're right here. So, you know, he was able to go get a job and go back to work. And even though we're living here, he's working in town, but he's coming back. And you know, we're and so it's just, oh gosh, it's I just felt like it's going to go right back. We're going to go right back if we leave here. And so I was just like, let's just stay. And as much as I did not want to be there and was not, I just didn't care for the you know, the control, but the life. I've gotten such a taste of the misery of having living the life with a drug addicted husband that I was like, it's that was worse. So
I mean, I totally understand that, being a kid of someone who saw their dad beat the crap out of their mom, you know, and like that was being there was, but we also me and Hannah are completely different because we came as kids. We didn't know any better. Just my dad wasn't beating the crap out of my mom anymore. And so, you get in this situation where it's like, this is a lot better. I mean, things are great. And I think once you like once you really started to get in involved in the church aspect of it, you start to notice things, the underlining things.
Yes.
And so you guys like graduated, you moved into a trailer that was down the street. And like during then, I mean, did you always like notice any red flags, or was it like, man, things are great, or you started to notice stuff?
I started noticing. No, I started noticing. So when we got out of the program, and they were like, okay, you know, down the street was owned by it was like a trailer park type situation, and the land was owned by one of the elders there. And so you could basically, you know, set up a trailer there and pay lot rent, and of course, you know, still be kind of under the guidelines. And so when we got there, and we were struggling, but mind you, when I first got there, we had 3 children, and before it was over with, I had 5 more children while we were there. So
I was gonna say, you guys are one of the families that have like 8 kids or something, or how many kids?
8 children. So we had
baby mother. I'm like,
5 of my children were born.
How did you bear so many kids?
We were just like, every year we were popping a new one out. It was, you know, again, it was just like, oh, well, you know, it's God's will that you have children, whatever. So we were just having babies. And then, and so you're having these children, and you're wanting to live right. You want to live for God. You want to serve. And yes, the red flags. Oh my gosh, there's so many red flags. One of the first red flags I started noticing was that it was looked down upon. You didn't really associate outside of the people here. It was just like you don't go into town and associate with people. You don't have in-town friends. And so it was just common knowledge that, you know, we stay to ourselves. We only interact with each other. And I really didn't understand why. Well, so as time went by, eventually, and I, oh gosh, there's so many different things that happened, but one of the main things I noticed, there was at some point, you know, I had all these children, and there was a carnival in town one time, and so if there was some kind of event or something like that, you know, we could go, but we kind of understood, like, if someone had been at the center and they left, oh my gosh, you just did not speak to them. They were banished. They were evil. They were, you do not speak to them. You don't have anything to do with them. And at one point there was a couple there, and they had come and lived at the center, and I had become very good friends with one of the lady, the wife, and she was very kind, very.
Do you want to say who it was? This was someone that left?
Yeah, this was it was oh gosh, Deanna. It was Margaret's brother's wife. Margaret's brother, her younger brother came, and him and his wife Deanna, and they didn't have.
I don't remember. Okay, yeah, okay. I was probably too young or something.
And she was just the neatest lady. They came in not as somebody with problems, but just because they're, hey, we want to just like do this thing with you, what y'all are doing. And they came, and then they're like, nah, maybe not, and they left. And so because they left, because they came and saw and said, no, this maybe not. And because once somebody left, you weren't allowed to associate with them, so you never knew why they left. You just know that they were there and then they were gone. But while she was there, we had become friends, and she was just this neat person. We got along. She was only uplifting. She was only positive. And we had become friends. And this was after we had completed the program, and we were living in the trailer house at the little trailer park area. And so her and her husband had a trailer there too. And we had become good friends. And then all of a sudden they were just gone. And all of a sudden you're somebody you're close friends with, and then they're gone, and you know nothing. You cannot speak to them. They cannot speak to you, because that was the rule. When someone leaves outside of the blessing, and there really is no blessing to leave, but when someone leaves, you're just like, that's it. Well, she was a real good friend of mine, and we'd always hang out and talk, and we lived in the neighborhood. Our babies would play together, whatever. So we knew each other. And then all of a sudden she was gone, and they had moved apparently into town, which was about a few minutes away.
The next one over, yeah, which was about 10 minutes away. And a lot of people, some of the people that would leave would move to the next town over. So you would run into people like
in the
at
store, grocery stores.
and you weren't allowed to say anything. It was
no, you weren't allowed to speak to them. You just had to act like you didn't know them.
Yeah.
And I had and so at one point there was a carnival of sorts. And surprisingly, we were allowed to go. But if there was something like that in town, believe me, there were elders there. There were people there watching, monitoring, seeing what everybody's doing, while they're there. So you're there, but you're being watched. And I ran into this old friend, this dear friend. She was a friend. She was, we only had a good friendship. Well, I ran into her at the carnival. And this was probably one of the first red flags, and probably the first red flag. And I ran into her, and my heart just went out, and she was like a sister to me. And when we saw each other, we just went up and started just talking about, we both understood to keep it very, don't go into gossiping about anybody, just but how you doing? Oh my gosh, oh, you got a house, oh that's great. And just kept it very
surface,
uplifting surface, but we missed each other. And so we were at this open carnival talking to each other in front of everybody. And there were people from, we called it the center, but there was people
everybody
from the center
everybody calls it that. Everybody still calls it that.
The center. And so we knew there were people from the center. We knew we were being watched. We knew that we had to be, but we were openly in public talking to each other at a carnival. And she was just a dear sister to me.
So did anything happen from that? I mean, were you like, were you written up? Were you like, I mean, like what?
Oh my gosh, yes. So while I was talking to her, a little bit further ahead, I noticed our David's oldest daughter was there. And at that time, she had a little baby girl that was just an infant. And she was there with one of her closest friends at the center also, who they were, just like this. And they were there together at the little pony ride thing. And so I was sitting there, talking to this girl, Deanna. And I noticed them at a distance, and I noticed them, and I thought, oh my gosh, they're looking at me. And I'm sitting here just doing nothing, talking to my girlfriend that I've missed and loved. And I could see them looking back at me. And then the friend that had been standing there with her walked up to me very abruptly and just cut into the conversation and shoved the camera at me and said, you need to go take pictures of her baby while she rides the pony.
Oh, good gosh.
I thought it was so rude. And I just thought,
and it's like kind of demeaning too. Like it's not that to take pictures is demeaning. I don't mean that. I just mean like, it's like in your face, like kind of like
she shoved the camera at me. And it's like, you're standing there beside her with the camera. Why can't you take the pictures? But I knew what she was doing. They didn't like that I was speaking to somebody that had left. And it was against the rules. It was you're sitting here talking to somebody that is no longer with us, and you're not supposed to do that. Here, you go over there. So she shoved that camera in my hand. She says, go over there and take pictures. And I just thought rude. How ugly can you be? And so, and I said, okay, in just a second. And I wrapped up my conversation with, and I was very embarrassed because it was obvious that I was being controlled and I was being disciplined or rebuked or whatever they wanted. And so afterwards, I went over there and I did what I was supposed to do, take the pictures, whatever. And it was embarrassed. So within a short, I don't know, a day or two later, I got called into that room, the council.
115.
Yeah, 115.
115. Okay, let me just like real quick. 115. We talked about it a little with Troy, but it is the counseling session the counseling area that you get called into when it's like when we need you to go. So if you get called up there, something's about to go down.
it's bad.
It's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
I'm in
So,
trouble. So,
yeah.
so yeah, if you are like, a lot of people may not understand this and they're thinking like, well, who the hell is going to tell me I can't speak to someone like that, you know, right then. But unless you have been like in an environment where you are at for a few years and your brain is so immersed in this, like, you know, for instance, me growing up in it, I thought it was normal. You know, these people leave. I mean, Raquel and Carrie left a couple of years before me and Hannah did, and we were not allowed to speak to them. People who were like sisters to me were like, they lived right by me. They would come over to my house and have iced tea and cookies, and like, you know, and then all of a sudden, they all worked at Walmart, and like we would go to the Walmart, and you couldn't say, oh, hey, I miss you, like, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that was for everyone. And on top of that, I don't know if you ever heard this, like anytime someone would leave, they would tell you stuff about them. And normally it was not, it was a lie that was coming out. And so we believed this stuff. And we're like, oh my God, they really did that? Oh crap. Okay. Well, you know,
like, oh, no wonder they're gone. You know?
Yeah. So cut to you guys get pulled into 115.
Oh,
you get pulled into 115.
And so everybody, and I'm talking, all the elders are in there, all the elders. And the little darling that I was supposed to be taking her baby's picture, she's sitting there, sitting. And I am grilled. What were y'all talking about? You and Deanna, what were you talking about? I said, we were talking about her new house. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And they made such a big issue about it. And I got severely rebuked for not honoring, because I delayed in running over to take the photos. I finished my conversation. I thought that was very rude. You know, I'm in mid-sentence and I'm interrupted and say, get over here and take pictures. And I was like, okay, I'll you know, in just a minute. So I was severely rebuked for, you know, I did not give honor to whom honor was due. And let me tell you what, they would quote the scriptures to you too. Good at quoting scriptures. So I did not give honor to whom honor was due. I don't know why the honor was due her. She, to me, a snotty-nosed brat. But, you know, I had to give her honor. And so I had to thank, and in that moment, when I'm being grilled and chewed out and rebuked and questioned, what were y'all talking about? What were y'all talking about? It's like, why are you so concerned about what we were just talking about how we knew already to keep it, you know, up and in the open, and we weren't talking negative, but they were so paranoid about what were y'all talking about? What were y'all talking about? And I was like, and I knew, and that was when I thought, oh my gosh, where am I? What is this place? And I had to apologize to the queen for not giving her honor.
Oh my God.
Apologize to her and ask her forgiveness that I did not give honor to her, because, you know,
did you have to repent, pray and repent?
I had to repent right there in front of everybody and ask her for forgiveness. And at that moment, let me tell you what, and let me tell everybody there too, you know what? I wasn't in a position to get up and leave. I had 8 children and a husband, and we were pretty much poverty stricken. And I knew at that moment, that's where they lost me right there. I was like, okay, I'm going to apologize to the little darling, because I'm not in a position to get up and walk away. And this is what it's going to take for me to get out of here and go back home. And it's like, what the hell? So I asked her for forgiveness, and I guess she graciously forgave me or whatever. I don't know. She pardoned me or something. And
she pardoned you.
Yes, I was pardoned.
Go my child in grace.
Yes, be gone and never do that again. Never do that again. You know, I was like, you little.
You know, I always, now that you were saying that, like, I always wondered, why did they care so much about if we talked to someone? And the only thing I can think of is because we knew, like, probably the majority of the people that were leaving, they probably knew stuff either about them or things about other people, and probably thought that they would tell us.
yeah, it was to keep.
And didn't want us to be,
Mhm. From
yeah.
knowing, because so as time went by, oh my gosh, so that was my big like, whew, okay, I'm not in a position to leave, but this is so messed up. This is so
Yeah.
messed up. Who
Was
uh,
that the beginning of when you like kind of started playing their game and like,
mhm. Yeah,
I'm
I was
gonna
like, okay, I'm just gonna go along,
do what I
and
can to
because
like,
I'm
yeah.
not in a position to go anywhere. We are financially, we are not in a position. You were just kept so poverty stricken. I mean, we're okay. We're renting this lot. We have a trailer house. We have all these kids, and of course they own the land. The elders own the land, and this was another thing that came. So one day it was like our lot rent went up, and I was like, why is our lot rent going up so much? Why do we have to pay so much? Because we all knew each other, and well, so and so only pays this because we're friends and we talk, and why do we have to pay so much more? And I was told, because you have more children. There's so many of y'all that.
So did you have to? So did you have to pay on the trailer too? Like you were paying on the trailer and the
Well,
lot?
yeah, the
Like,
trailer
so,
was ours. So we bought the trailer from a couple that had left. So we
okay.
we paid them for it. So we're paying for the trailer, but then we're also paying lot rent to the people that own the land.
Everybody had to pay. So everybody had to pay lot rent. Like I remember my parents had to pay. You had to pay lot rent if you had a trailer there on campus on site.
Yes.
And so because
the rent was just like, well, it's because you pay more because there's more of y'all. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're already
But isn't your
struggling.
trailer the same size as everyone else's trailer?
It's like the lots are all
Not like
the lot. Oh no, you
yeah.
have 8 kids, so y'all got to pay all this much. And I was just like, so I was just like, so because I questioned it, it's like, why is our lot going up? Oh, it's because you have more kids. And I was like, that's, and you could see that I was disturbed by it. And I got a call the next day from it was the senior, it's not when the senior, it was the next person in line, pastor's wife, to tell me that, I heard you got an attitude about the lot payment, and you need to just, back off. You need to just, accept it and trust God, whatever. So I got rebuked because I caught an attitude over, why are we paying more? It doesn't seem fair. And that was the extent of my attitude. So I was like, okay. And so we were, it was a struggle. We didn't have a lot of money. The children's father, he would go to work, but he'd come home, and, it was just, we didn't have a lot of money. And so I'm seeing these little things. And then as time went on, oh my gosh, probably one of the most horrific things that I had to deal with. So, okay, there was every day, the people in the center, they would, in the kitchen, they would cook a meal. And every day was a different meal of sorts, whatever it was. It'd be shepherd's pie one day, and the next day be whatever, all these different things. And then
it was the worst food.
On Saturday, they would get every day's meals, and they would basically have leftover day on Saturday. So leftover day, Saturdays, like they would have this leftover day, and it was all the week's worth of meals would be, and you could whatever, okay, I'll take this and this and that. So you could pick from all the weeks of worth of leftovers. And then after the week's worth of leftovers, there was this pig farmer in town, Mr. Chumchow. And he had pigs, and we had this big giant 50-gallon drum outside of the kitchen, and they would dump after the leftovers day, whatever was left would be thrown into that pig slop drum, and the pig farmer would come and pick it up. And then once a year, we would give him our leftovers, and it was a lot. So once a year, he would give us a pig. I think it was at Christmas or the holidays or something. We would get a pig donated to reimburse us for all the food that we would give him, all the leftovers. So there was a season where, we were just like so desperately struggling and all these kids. And I was like, oh my gosh, we did not have food. We weren't hardly eating. So I would, on the day before the pig farmer got the scraps, after, everybody's through with them. Okay, we're throwing them to the pigs. So I would go down there with these buckets, and I would get the leftovers before they give them to the farmers.
Yeah.
And we would eat the following week over that. That's what we would eat, the children. So we would eat on those leftovers. And I would do that every week after they got through on the day of, they were just like, okay, this is leftover day. Before they went to the pig slop, I'd go over there and just, hey, can I get a bucket of that and a bucket of that, whatever. And I would get enough food to last me through another week.
Yeah.
Well, I was doing that for a season. We were just struggling so bad. And we just didn't have any money and weren't making a lot. And so, so one day I went in there to get our week's worth of groceries for the next week. And I was informed that you can't have any food. And I was like, why? And I was instructed not to let the person that had in the kitchen said, well, I was instructed not to give you any more of the leftovers.
Oh my
And
God.
so I was just like horrified. I was just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So we just had to figure it out. But I was told that, and the reasoning behind that was, if a man does not provide for his family, he is worse than an infidel. And your husband he needs to be able to provide for you. So if he can't provide for you, then he is worse than an infidel. So we're not going to provide for you. He needs to do it. And so they cut us off. And there was just like little things like that were just like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Why yet? Like, oh, that just makes me so sick. So were you, this is just a quick side question. Were you getting the food before it went like in the buckets, like, or whatever? And so before it went to the buckets, and before then
the pigs. I would basically fill up right before the pigs got it. So I was just like, if we can I would get enough food to last us the week.
Yeah.
And it would take away from the pigs, I guess. And so then they were said, no.
So did anybody else, like, did anyone else know about this? Or like, it was, I mean, like, know that like you guys couldn't feed your family? Did anyone else know? Like, or was it just like you kept it in your family and then, or you tried to keep it in your family and then like
the only people that knew, I guess, because I didn't tell anybody, were when I would go to the kitchen and the workers in the kitchen they knew what I was doing. They knew what I was doing. And apparently word got out that I was going down there before they threw it out to the pigs and I was getting food. And so they apparently told, or somehow the word got out that, because I was doing it on a very regular basis for a season. And then it was just
but even if like it's going to an animal, it's not like it's like, we need the rest of this to go to the homeless shelter or something. Like,
no, it was,
and it just makes me
because
so
they said no, because your husband should be providing for you, and so that
I want to know who told you that.
The person
are they still
the person that told me that?
Yeah. Are they still there?
No, she's not there anymore. She was doing what she was told, I'm sure, but it was the person that was head over the kitchen, and it just broke my heart. It broke my heart.
She probably then was told by someone else.
She was doing what she was told. She was instructed not to give us any more of the scraps. So then it was just like, oh my gosh. Okay. So literally I was just like at home, like, oh my gosh, literally praying, God, help me to feed the children, help me to feed them. And so then, oh my gosh, there's so many things. That was another red flag, yet another. So after, you remember when everybody started letting the kids kind of go to school, because we were homeschooled forever.
Was this when we tried to do our own school, or actually to the public school?
The public school.
Okay, because we tried to do a school before the public school.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. So we homeschooled forever, and I had homeschooled my children up until my oldest was going into the 9th grade, and I had homeschooled him his entire education. Him and all the other ones, all of them were homeschooled. And so at that point, when he was entering the 9th grade, we were, I guess, maybe because the eldest children were getting older too, to go ahead and put the kids in school. They can go to school.
Okay, let me cut to real quick. You were not allowed to go to public school. You had to homeschool, you had to it was just like you couldn't, because high school, going to the next town over to the high school, that was very frowned upon. And so most of everyone, you were made to homeschool. So the education you got were from your parents. And Yes. So
whether your parents knew what they were doing or not, you had to homeschool your children. And so at one point it came where, okay, we're going to kind of let the guard down a little bit, the kids can go to school. Well, so with my oldest son, went to school, and he had made some friends. And so, and these were nice kids. And there was a young man that, a boy, I mean, they were in the 9th grade. And this young man came over and he became friends with him. And the kid was nice, and he would come over and hang out sometimes. And so after several times of coming over, he confided in me, and I would interact with the kids and talk to them and stuff. And he asked me, he said, that his mother was really having some struggles, that she was very, very depressed. And would I mind going over there and just visiting with her? He said, my mother's just really, it was bad. And so he asked me if I would go visit with his mother. And so I did. I said, sure. And I went over and I met the lady. She had lived in town, and she was very depressed and had been so for years. And she just, her depression, it stemmed from her husband leaving her, and infidelity, and anyway, so she was just really in such a depression, in her house was, it was a mess. It was a mess. You could see the depression. It was all over the house. And to where she just had just moved in next door to her mother's house, which was a little trailer house, because her house became unlivable. And she had this young, teenage boy that was still trying to live in that house. And my heart just broke for him and for his mother, who was just in such a depression. And so I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to come over this weekend, and I'm going to help you. And we're going to clean up your son's, because the son was living in just one room. It was like a little outdoor. It had a bedroom and a bathroom, and just one little room. And I said, let's get his room cleaned up. I can't deal with the whole house, but we can at least get his room cleaned up. And so I went over this weekend and helped her and him. And we got his little room area, his living area, cleaned up. And it just really was nice. And it's just like, he's just a young man. He's a boy. Let's help him out. So I spent the weekend helping them clean up his room, and his living area. It was like a little living room, bedroom, bathroom. Anyway, so we got it cleaned up, and I got called in for that. Well, actually, that situation.
Wait, hold on. You got called in for going over to their house?
Yeah, for helping them clean their house, because
probably because you were associating with people that were outside the church. Am I assuming that that's the case? Or
this came up, actually, this came to me from a sermon. It was in the middle. David preached one day. It was shortly after that. And he said, people don't need to be going to help other people outside of our church. You need to help here. And I got rebuked basically for helping clean up.
You got rebuked in the church service, or
in the church service,
or so wait, did they call you out, or he was just saying in general?
He had enough detail to where I knew he was speaking to me. And he just said, you have no business going off, and you need to help people here in the church, in our body. You stay within our body. We do not go outside of our body and help others.
The body of Christ. So meaning the body of Christ is the church. It's the group of people that are there.
Are there with us. So I was rebuked for going outside of our church people and helping other people. I needed to keep my help in there. And so that was just like, and I knew he made it very obvious, and I knew, somehow I must have told my next door neighbor, who was one of the elders, that I had gone over and helped this lady, and word got back that I helped clean somebody's house. And I was basically, you need to stay, you need to, keep it here. And that was, again, I was like, so we're not supposed to be friendly and help others outside of our body, which was the people that went to our place, our church, whatever they called it.
It's like at that point, how else are you supposed to get new people in the church.
No,
Like,
no.
like just by you doing that and like reaching out and being kind, she might have been like, oh, what church do you go to? And like,
Mhm.
oh, I didn't get, but because like, I
Oh.
mean, thank God she didn't come, I'm saying, but like,
Well, she'd
that's
still
how
be there.
most like,
Yeah.
that's how most of the time that it goes. But
It should.
yeah.
And to me, that was just another red flag. Another red flag. It's like we weren't supposed to associate. We weren't supposed to help.
Yeah,
We weren't
it was
supposed
very like, yeah.
Mhm.
I
Very.
think I
Mhm.
think like a little bit after your time, like after you guys left, they started getting a little more like lenient with stuff, not as restricted as that. I mean, it was still very like restricted, but not as restricted as that. But I do remember, and I don't know if you remember this, but I remember there would be praise and worship times where like he would because he played what did he play? He played like the electric guitar or something.
Yeah.
Which I never thought he was that great. I'm like, he would always talk about, oh, I had this deal with CBS Records and I didn't take it. I'm like, I don't think you're a good singer, first of all. And like, you guys sing the same freaking Christmas song every year and it's not good. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But occasionally he would say like, people in the next town say that this is a cult. And by the definition of cult, and he would explain what the definition of cult was. And like, he would be like, then we are a cult. And everybody was just like, nobody ever thought two shits about it. It was like, praise Jesus, the community of the Lord.
Yeah. We were like, oh yeah, I can remember actually when I was in the program, when we were in the program and we couldn't say the word cult and we had to call it the C word. And it's like,
if you said cult,
we couldn't say cult. We couldn't say cult. We had to say the C word. If anybody called, they said the C word. Oh,
you got another demerit. That's another 5 scriptures you got to learn.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, oh my God. And there was just so many things. It got worse and worse and worse. The red flags. So I have to tell you this. So then at some point, I guess my husband, he was just like, he started going back into the drugs. He started using drugs.
This is while you guys were still there.
While we were still there, he started
using again.
He started using again. Okay. And so it came out that he was using it. And so he went back into the program to, okay, you're going to go back into the program and whatever it takes, and I was like, okay, here we go. So he went back. And at that point I had been a stay-at-home mom. I had all these children and I didn't know what to do. And I remember my electric bill was due, and oh my gosh, those trailer houses, and we're in the middle of nothing, no trees, nothing. It was, our bill was just ridiculous. And so he had gone back into the program, and I remember my electric bill coming. I didn't know what to do with it, so I took it to the elders, and I said, I don't know what to do with my electric bill. They're going to cut our electricity off. And they said, you better go to work. We don't. You better go get you a job. And so I was just like, oh my gosh. I was just like, I had all these children, I had babies, all the way down to just little bitty. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? So I remember just being distraught. Well, I came back in, and of all things, I get a call. This is what happened. I get a phone call because when my husband had started doing drugs and he had to go back into rehab, we together, he and I went and spoke to his boss and told him basically
with the company that he had been working.
We came clean. We just came totally clean and just said, this is what's going on, and he's going to have to go into rehab. And they were like, okay, that's fine. And so they were supportive. They were like, okay, we're just going to give him a leave of absence. When he finishes, he can come back. So,
and point being, did you also have to pay for him going through the rehab part of it?
No, we didn't have to pay for him the second time around. Because I didn't have any money. They knew that.
Yeah, it's like, how are you gonna?
But they told me, they said, you better go get a job. And I was just like, where do you start? I haven't worked in years and years and years, and I've got 8 children at home and babies that I don't even. I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh. So, of all things, I was just at home, just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? and I get a phone call. The phone rings, and it is my husband's boss. And he says, I just cannot, I don't know how you're surviving. I know that he was the only source of income. He was so concerned. He said, I want you to get down here. You're going to take your husband's job. We're going to give you his job. We're going to give you his job. And I
What
said,
did he do?
he was a union insulator. He was a union worker. He was a union worker, union
And
insulator.
you never did that, right?
No. And I said,
Oh
I
my
don't know.
God,
I
were you like,
said,
holy
I
crap?
said, I don't know how to do his job. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. And they said, don't worry. We're gonna take care of you. You get down here. So
Wow.
they said, get down here. We're gonna swear you in. So of course I ran to the elders and said, they told me just, they're gonna give me his job and then not to worry about it, just to get down there, and they were gonna give me his job. And this was another big, oh my gosh, this was heartbreaking. So when I told him, of course, it was construction. It was in construction.
Mhm.
And so when I told him, his boss said that they would give me his job while he's in rehab, because they know that I don't have anything, and they know we have 8 children, and they don't know how we're making it, and which we weren't. We had no income, no nothing, no means. And so they said, get you some steel toe boots and a hard hat, and get down here tomorrow, and we're going to swear you in, and you're going to work, and you're going to do his job, and don't worry about it. So when I told the 2 elders that I went to let them know that this is what I'm going to have to do, because they were just like, I already knew, they're like, we're not going to get any more pig slop. We're not going to, we're cut off. We're cut off. And,
Yeah.
and so I said, I'm going to do this. They're going to pay me, and I'm going to do it. And the 2 that I told, there were two of the top elders. It was Jonathan and Lloyd. Jonathan and Lloyd.
Well, Lloyd, they're both no longer there. So
okay, let me just tell you what they did. And they were like, oh, okay, well, all right. And they both got up and they walked, and I was sitting in their office, and they walked around the corner, around into we're in the room, but they walked around off to the side a little bit. And I heard them start laughing.
are you serious?
They started laughing, and they just laughed.
Oh my God. Said, oh my God.
Oh, she's going to work in construction. Okay. And they laughed, and they said, well, I guess he better start praying, because she's going into construction field. And I heard them, and it broke my heart that they were so cruel. I always thought of them as brothers.
Yeah.
They were making fun that she's fixing to be thrown into the lion's den, and they were laughing about it, because they knew what I was going to be exposed to. I did not. Well,
it's obviously a very hard, it's a very hard job. And
you're working with all these men, construction workers.
But still, you're a mom of 8 young kids. You're going to do whatever it takes to get it done.
Yeah.
And for them to sit there and just laugh and not say, you know what? Let's see what we can do to help you out and to get you situated.
No, they laughed.
Did you just start crying?
No.
I would have. No. Did that make you just even more mad?
No, I didn't. I just sat there. I just heard them, and I just didn't do anything. I heard them laughing. I didn't say anything. I didn't let them know I knew. I just heard them, and it was as if I was listening to my brothers, because I always thought of them as brothers. And all of a sudden, they were just making fun that I'm fixing to be exposed to something that I have no idea. And he better be praying for her now. And that was what they said to each other. And then they came back, they're like, okay, go to work. And so I did that for 4 months. And then finally I was just it was 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. My oldest son at that point I had to be at work at, I think it was 7 to 7. And my oldest son, I just had to tell him literally overnight, get all the kids ready for school in the morning. The 2 babies.
So he basically became the second parent.
Yes.
And how old was he?
14.
He was 14.
He was 14.
I started babysitting at 13. Well, they made us watch everyone else's kids there. So
yeah. No, actually he might've been 15, 14, 15. But I remember telling him, get the kids up, get them on the bus. And he had to get on the bus too. So get up, get everybody up, get everybody on the bus. The two babies, I had made arrangements with actually it was Troy's mother. And I hired her, or I was like, Elena, you babysit the babies for me. The two little ones, I would drop them off with her. Their father was in rehab back at the center. William, get the kids on the bus, get to school. And literally, and that was oh my gosh, it was torture. And I did that for months, every single day, 7 days a week. And he became the head of the home, the head of the male head of the home. Is like, okay, you're of the kids.
I did not know any of this. Like, I didn't know. It seems like William had to grow up pretty fast. It just seemed like I did not know any of this. Can you tell me we're getting right past an hour here. Okay. So can you just like tell me what was like the final straw, and then like how you guys left? Like what made y'all finally want to leave?
After the kid's father, I finally, after 4 months, I said, let him, please, can y'all let him out? I cannot keep this pace up. I was just burning out so fast. And so they released him from the program to go back to work. And at that time, they told me, they said, okay, you need to quit your job. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep working too, because we can't survive. We weren't able to survive off one income. So I kept working. He was working. Well, then eventually he started back using again. And
for like a third time. So I know all about this. My dad has been up and down. Like,
he started using again, and to my horror, I of course I held him accountable. Oh, he's using again. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with him. It was just I run and tell on him, and so I got called in for counseling one night after he had started again. And they, it was late, 11 o'clock at night or whatever. It's late into the day. And they're like, okay, you need to come to counseling. And I went in and I was instructed that, okay. And it was all the male leaders, every single male leader. There was no females there. They were all males. And there was, I don't know, 8, 10, all the male heads of the center. They were in the counseling session. And they were just like, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to, we're going to remove him from the body of Christ. We're going to turn him over to Satan for the destruction of his flesh. So that y'all
we're going to turn him over to Satan
for the destruction of his flesh.
Said those words.
Yes.
Oh my God.
He needs to be turned
up. Like doing a ritual. We will turn him.
We're going to turn him over to Satan, so that Satan can destroy his flesh, and then he can be restored. So we're going to turn him over to Satan to be just so his flesh can be just, let Satan just have his way, destroy, and then bring it when he to be restored to the body. And so basically they told me, they said, we're going to put him out of the church. We're putting him out, but you and the children are going to stay here. And this is quote, we are going to be a husband to you and a father to your children. Well, I already knew better than that, first of all, and I didn't want that, and I was
they would have started speaking your kids,
well,
if they hadn't already.
Nobody had,
because elders used to spank the single mothers,
yes. And believe me, they would, and so they said, we're going to be a husband to you and a father to your children. And I said, I don't know, no, I didn't want that. And I said, I've seen this happen. So I told them that I had seen this happen, and I pointed out this one. What about, and I pointed out several women that y'all have already put their husbands out, and now they're remarried. So how can you say they can be restored when these women are already remarried? What about their husbands? What about, and I named their names and I called them out. And I said, you've done this one, and now they're remarried. So how can their husbands be restored to them? And we went back and forth. And David, the leader, he got angry with me, and he stormed out of the counseling session, said, he was furious with me for, I don't know, I was disagreeing with them. And so he left, and they said, okay, we're going to pray over you, and you have 3 days. We're going to come back to you in 3 days and make it, and you tell us what God has spoken to you. But during this whole session, they would say, this is the voice of the Lord. This is the voice of the Lord. And they would tell me instructions. this is the voice of the Lord. So after they prayed and told me to, okay, go home and think about it and pray about it, and we'll talk to you in 3 days. Well, they didn't wait 3 days. The next day we got called in next door to the landlord's house, and several elders were there, and they said, we've decided that y'all just need to go, and he needs to go because, you know, he's doing drugs, whatever. And Chanel, you are out of faith with the body of Christ.
Oh my God.
And you have been banished due to you are not in faith, because I refused to divorce my husband and be their wife and the father to my children. And so that was, we were instructed, nobody can have anything to do with you, and you have, you know, till the end. This was like November, and you have till December the 1st to get out of here. And this was right before Thanksgiving, because we didn't have Thanksgiving with anybody. We went to a park for Thanksgiving Day, but so we were banished from the body of Christ for my banishment was for being out of faith with them, because I did not agree with their instruction. And so thank God we were actually, I felt like we were catapulted out. It was like that, you know, and he got us out of there. And it was the scariest, most traumatic.
It's the scariest thing, getting out of there. You're scared shitless. I mean,
we had no means. We had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And we were kicked out, and it was like, and we received a letter saying, you have so many days to get out of here. And if you don't get this trailer house of yours out of here, then it's ours after so many days. You know, whatever's here on this property belongs to us. We will confiscate it. And we believed it. And so we literally gave we had a garage sale, just sold, gave everything away, and loaded up our vehicles and literally drove away, not knowing. It was
where did y'all
scary.
go?
We came to, ended up, I had a sister that had a house that she had abandoned, and it was in foreclosure. And when I had told her that we had to leave, and she said, well, you know, I have this abandoned house. It was a hot mess. She said, I had this abandoned house in this town, whatever. It was up in the Dallas area. She said, you can stay there till the bank comes and gets it. And we literally went to that house, and just, it was almost uninhabitable. Anyway, we stayed there until we could just keep moving on, and the Lord was with us. And I do want to say this, that God was with us. He opened doors. I never had to beg bread. I never had to come out and say, I need help. He just made ways, opened doors. I got a job. Will got a job. It's like, son, get a job, and we're going to make this work. You and I are going to do it. Put their dad in rehab once again. And eventually we did get divorced, because he couldn't seem to get off the drugs. But
I thought y'all were still, okay. For some reason, I thought y'all were still married, but
no,
you guys did get divorced.
We did get divorced.
Did you get remarried, or?
Yeah, I remarried.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, but you know, we survived. And I do want to say this, that, you know, oh gosh, there's so many things I want to say. I could go on for days, but the Lord, he was there with us, even in, you know, I believe our hearts, and so many people that went through the program, their hearts were right in going there. They loved the Lord, and they believed, you know, the instructions. And I would have to say that, you know, I believe that God honored that, and he protected us and brought us out and took care of us and helped us through, and we survived. And we're here today. You know, the kids are, you know, they're grown now. And I just see that, you know, David and a lot of the elders there, not all of the elders, because I know there were a few there that really did have good hearts, but many of them caused many to stumble, and they'll answer to God for that. And my thing is, you know what, if you want to have a rehab, fine, have a rehab, have a rehab, but don't do it in the name of the Lord, because you took his name in vain. You took the name of the Lord, and you used it and applied it to your agenda that he had no part in. And
that's exactly what happened. They would take scriptures out of the Bible and use them according to what they wanted to do.
Oh my gosh. And I could go on.
And
Oh, and I could go on about the Deborah Frankel thing. Oh my gosh, that's a whole other.
that's a whole other thing.
Oh,
Actually, that is on one of my lists to talk about eventually. But
pull me in on that one. I want to be a part of that one.
I might need to have like, I might have like 2 people on for that or something. That's a whole different thing. But, you know, I do want to commend you for being such an awesome mother. And like through all of that, you guys had so many kids, and all you were trying to do is provide for your family. And then like, at the end of the day, these people are telling you you're just out of it. I know how they talk. You're out of it. You're out of the ring of God. And like, you were literally trying to be a woman of God and trying at the same time to provide for your family while you had a husband that was still going in and out of music. Like, I just want to commend you for being like, just like a good mother, you know, and like it's just crazy. Like, I almost want to start crying. Like, what the story you told about just it just kills me about the freaking food and not being able to have food, because like this was after you guys left, I think. I mean, we had to give our first fruits so that they could build their house, the pastor's house. And like, there were people like you who had families, but you still had to give. Were you a part of that at all?
Yeah. You had to give.
Did you have to give? Were you still made to give first fruits, even though you couldn't put food on the table?
Yeah.
So first fruits, I may have talked about this in the first one, but first fruits is like at the beginning of the year where you have to give a certain amount of your income to the church. And, and like asking God for something.
They knew what your income was. But a
lot of these families didn't have a lot of income coming in, and you had a lot of kids. It was like, how am I supposed to give even like $20? That's like so much that could feed probably like for that dinner for the night or whatever. I don't know. Like, it just makes me sick. I mean, I was a teen, like, I remember when I think I was an older teenager at this point, but even we like had to give our first fruits, whatever we made. It was like, and we were making, $50 a week, I guess. Like,
and I do want to say this, public data, go to public data. You can look up, because I didn't know this until afterwards, but look up David Kershke, Jonathan Gill, Brandon Oliver, look them up, Lloyd Despain, public data. David had 2 DWIs.
I know.
The multiple, so it's public data. I'm not slandering anybody.
It is.
People, y'all want to put your kids there for rehab? Fine, but be eyes wide open. These people have drug problems. They have alcohol problems. They are not who they, say they are. They, do some research, do some homework on them. This is not just me saying this. This is because I can be, anybody saying anything, and somebody's like, well, we don't know her. Fine. Go look up the documents, go look up the records, go to public data, research these people, find out, how many times they've been arrested, what they've been to prison for. It's out there. After we left, after we were in their program for 11 years, they going to prison, they've all, it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
So we're going to have to end soon, but, I just want to thank you so much for coming on and telling us. I know you probably have so much more to share and everything. Maybe we can do like a part 2 or something. But I would love to talk to William and stuff. He was one of our group of people that we played with. I haven't seen him in so long. But just to be able to have survived everything and like get out on the other side and know, like, man, I'm still going. I still think I am doing like the will of God, and it is there, and I just really want to thank you. Like, it's an encouragement to everyone else who maybe is struggling out there. Maybe they're in some kind of different cult. Maybe they're in a situation that they can't get out of. It could even just be in a marriage that's like being abused or something, and you're so scared to leave. Like I completely understand what it's like being so scared that you can't get out.
Yeah.
And So yeah, just thank you so much. I know we will continue to talk. I loved catching up. This is just crazy. Not having
Yeah,
seen you in like over 20 years. It's just,
I
it's,
know, I know.
I was a kid at the time. I
You
wasn't in a,
were, you were just
like,
a little girl. Yes.
I was a little kid. I had no, this is why like almost everything you said, what the stories you personally told, I had no idea. And I'm going to tell my sister too, like we had no idea you guys were dealing with such poverty. I mean, maybe my mom knew a little bit more, but we hadn't, like we were, and it's just crazy. But yeah,
Well,
yeah, thank you so much.
thank
And
you. I'm so happy for you doing this. I think this is great. And I'm just, keep it up. This is great. It needs to come out. I mean, it's been
yes,
a long time coming.
it has. It has. And I just want to encourage anyone out there who is dealing with anything along this level. It doesn't even have to be in a cult setting, but anything in a situation that you want to change your
Controlling.
life. Yeah, you want
Controlling.
to change your life to be better. There is always a way out. And God, I mean, it may not be God, and maybe for you, for not, I don't know, for me it's God, but to each their own kind of thing. And I just want to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and hope everyone has a wonderful new year.
Amen. Take care, Syria. It's good to
I'm
see
going
you.
to end, hold on, I'm going to stop the recording and we can continue talking for a minute if,
Okay.
bye. You sure you want to stop recording?
It's not